Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's so good to see you, especially, gosh, we're getting really close to Christmas and there's so much going on and the world is just bonkers. So it's really good to see you. And I'm joined by the wonderful Lynn McCann, who you know, for sure, if you're joining us, and Kate Holden as well, who's joined us for the first time. We're so happy that you're here, Kate. So happy to be joining us as well. Um, Let me just say before we get straight into it, we're going to be answering your questions today. So before we get into it, don't forget that if you're joining us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. We do quite a lot of this kind of stuff, quite a lot. Am I sounding a bit funny to you? Like I'm a bit funny.
A bit muffled.
You're a bit muffled. Lynn, why don't you just have a quick chat for a moment? Why don't you and Kate introduce yourselves to each other, and I'll have a sort of figure out what's going on, what's going on with my audio.
I think you're all right now.
Am I fine now? That's
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just having a moment. There you go. It's good to see you. So really lovely to see you all. So just saying, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. So we're constantly, hopefully not too constantly, doing this kind of stuff, putting out some hopefully helpful advice and everything. And I'm so grateful that Lynn and Kate are here chatting with us again. You can, of course, if you're watching still, ask your questions, put them in the chat or the comments. So whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn Live, which is quite new for us. So hello, if you're there. And if you're on YouTube, just use the chat and we'll be able to see your questions. And we'll put those to Lynn and Kate as well. Lynn, would you introduce yourself to us and tell us, for those who maybe haven't met you before, tell us a bit about you. All right.
Yeah, hi everybody. Whether you've seen me before or you've seen me on screen or just heard my name, it's quite nice. But if you haven't, I'm Lynn McCann. I run a company called Reach Out ASC, and we are autism specialists. So we spend a lot of time going into schools and supporting individual pupils, building programs around them that work for them. And we also do quite a lot of training and on all different subjects related to autism. So we are autism specialists and we love what we do. And the best people we learn from are the young people who we work with ourselves. They're brilliant. So yeah, we like to share what helps.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lynn. How about you, Kate? Would you mind just telling us what's your name, where you're from?
I'm on a game show. Hi everyone, my name's Kate Holden. You may have seen my name around Twitter, and I've done a couple of things with Lynn. Mainly the Christmas course has been our big major thing, hasn't it? But I'm also a specialist advisory teacher like Lynn, and our jobs are very, very similar. So I specialise in autism and social emotional mental health. So I go into lots of schools as well. That's where the majority of my work is, working with young people and doing lots of training and consultancy for education staff.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It'd be really good. Why don't you, Kate, tell us about what life's been like really recently for those students that you're working with.
Well, I was really taken aback at how well my students have all adjusted to the return to school. There was an awful lot of planning and preparation going on behind the scenes before September, but they've adapted incredibly well. And I think that's down to a lot of things. But in the secondary schools I'm in at the moment, it's mainly to do with the fact that they're zoned off and there isn't transitions going on between classes and, you know, all that noise going on in the corridors. So everything seems a lot more structured in schools, and I think our pupils are thriving with that as well. And then, of course, we've been talking about this run up to Christmas, and a lot of the students are looking forward to that.
Why are they looking forward to it then? What's helping them look forward to it? Is it always the case that they would be looking forward to it?
Not always. No, many of my students really struggle with Christmas. I mean, they love the excitement of it, all the presents and, you know, but it's more the social overload and the sensory overload that they really struggle with. So I think they're looking forward to a quieter Christmas where they're not going to be seated with large family members, and just a more routine Christmas. A lot of mine are actually looking forward to just being in their own homes.
Yeah. How about you, Lynn? Are you having similar conversations with people, similar experiences?
Yes, I'm still finding from parents and things that get in touch, whereas some schools are kind of in a way, overdoing Christmas because they feel that people are missing out. So it's still kind of quite a lot of overload. But we've been able to talk with people and say, just calm things down, make it a bit more predictable. A lot of the things, you know, we've been pointing them to the video that we've made just for tips, and people have found that helpful. But on the other hand, though, I've had a school that got in touch with me to say that they'd planned their whole Christmas based on the advice that we'd had in our video, which was really neat. And just keeping things predictable, still enjoying Christmas. You can enjoy Christmas as long as you understand the sort of challenges that our children have. And I agree with Kate. The coming back to school in September was so well planned and worked hard on by so many staff and teachers that it has helped a lot of children. They like being in those bubbles, and but I think the difficulty has been where they've been had to send home through you know, having to isolate, and that's been quite random, hasn't it? You know, that you for 1 week and then the next week. So that's been a tricky time for a lot of people. It's strange times.
Strange times, really strange times. I don't know about anybody else. I quite like the fact that it's going to be a little bit less manic, a little bit less running around and loopiness after the year we've had. Just being able to maybe chill out a bit more. And I guess for some of our children, that's a good thing. Certainly for Aaron, who, Kate, you know, Aaron's 8. He has Down syndrome. It's going to be really good for him just to be quite settled. And everything he loves it. Santa drove past the window one night a few days ago and he just went a little bit loopy, but he loves the whole thing. But it'd just be nice just to have the edge taken off, you know? Folks, if you please do submit questions. If you've got anything you'd like to ask either Lynn or Kate, I'm going to start firing them at you if that's all right. Love it. You ready? We're going to go straight to the one which I know we had little conversations with, but do folks please use the chat if you want to ask any questions while we do that. I'm going to go straight to the one, and I'm going to read the whole question out on our screen. We can't fit everything on, so I'm going to read the whole question to you. And it's a question from Fran. It's about the legal obligations for children having to attend mainstream schools in the run up to Christmas. Just let me read the rest of that out to you. Maybe we can just chat about what kind of advice maybe we can offer to Fran. So the rest of the question is, things are so different, routines are out of the window and my child isn't coping. Is it reasonable for me to keep them home in a calmer environment and complete work, etc., that could be set? Kate, what do you think about that?
Well, there is an obligation for parents obviously to be sending their children to school, but if your child is SEND, then the school have a responsibility to make reasonable adjustments. So from my point of view, I would hope that the school are looking at how they can make the school environment a little bit calmer and a little bit more secure for your child. If that's not possible, if you feel like, no, it's just way too overwhelming and you know that they're not coping very well, I think my first port of call would be the school itself. And I would speak to school about what adaptations could take place. At the moment, we've got home learning going on and we've got blended learning. So it may be that, you know, the head teacher's quite open to that. So I would just advise having that conversation.
Anything to add on that, Lynn?
Yes, there are some legal sort of difficulties around this because, you know, to keep a child at home, you'll have the legal obligation to send your child to school. If the school said, well, don't bring your children in, they are illegally excluding. There's some sort of letters of the law that you need to check out. If it's an agreement between you and it's for a short time, then especially if they are working at home, it is possible, but I think you just need to check out the legal status of it. And the place to look would be something like IPSC, so IPSCA website, or maybe your local authority possibly might have some ideas, but it's just checking out the legal framework, having a conversation with your school, and if that's the right thing for your child's mental health, then, you know, pursue it. Because I mean, I know there's only a week left and you don't want it to be an authorized absence. You want it to be something that's calm and right for them, don't you? So I don't blame you for investigating that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right. It's about talking about it, isn't it? It's right to have the conversations as you can. And I guess as schools and as parents, it's that fine line, isn't it? We're trying to strike the balance where trying to keep the relationship as good as we can. When things aren't necessarily dead easy and some of the conversations are a bit tricky, but especially at the minute, let's look after each other. because it's it's just bonkers, isn't it?
Mm.
I think let's have a look at another one that's here. And this is Doreen. This is how best to support an autistic student after they're back in school after both parents have tested positive. She's just a bit rubbish, isn't it? Lynn, what do you think?
Well, to be honest, I have had this kind of situation going on, and what we found is the child can kind of just lose their confidence in school, and they're often quite worried about the parents still afterwards. So I think obviously all starts with talking to the child or giving them a chance to communicate with you in whatever communication system that they will use, giving them a bit of space, maybe upping the time that they have sensory breaks, but timetable those in so that they've got some breaks, and just lower the demands a little. But if they are worried about the illness and things like that, we can't make assurances, can we? But what we can do is look at sort of what we're doing to help and what we're doing to get on with things and keep people healthy generally. There are some really good resources and links that we have shared on the Christmas and other courses on our website and things like that. But yeah, it's lots of reassurance. And if the child is very anxious, we always say reduce demands and work up from what they can cope with. There's a really good video I found by Peter Vermeulen on about COVID anxiety, and he talks about having a scale. A lot of the reasons we're anxious because of the unpredictable things which weigh us down, and actually said if you can talk about some predictable things, what can be sure, even if it's that you can go out on your bike, and it's having that balance, then actually that just helps us think about things in a more balanced way. But for our autistic children, it needs to be quite concrete, perhaps, the things that we can pin that assurance on.
Yeah. Kate, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like Lynn, I've also had a couple of students who are really struggling with this, really worrying about parents if they're not there, almost taking that responsibility upon themselves to look after mum and dad and make sure they're okay. One thing that we've added in that's been quite helpful is that contact with home during the day. That's been really, really valuable to some of our students. So with one particular student, they have a phone call home every lunchtime and speak to parents, and that really reassures them that everything at home is okay. There's another student where we have a check-in in the morning and before they go home as well, just to monitor how they're doing. And then we've also used some visuals, like Lynn was saying. There's a lot out there that you will find on the internet, things I can control and things I can't control, and just doing those kinds of exercises and talking about how you can manage the things that are within your control yourself, and come up with some strategies for those in a visual format. That could be quite useful as well.
Yeah, gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. Let's have a look and see what else we've got going on here. Folks, do use the comments and stuff if you've got any questions. We've got some here still to work through, but do use that if there's anything that is burning away at you. Listen, it doesn't have to be specifically about Christmas stuff. If there's stuff that would be helpful to chat through right now, that's absolutely fine to ask whatever you want. I know there's kind of a bit of a focus on that at the minute, but let's ask anything you want. There's one here from Deborah, which is a great one. I'm going to come to you first, Kate. Why do some ASC children find Christmas so overwhelming more than others?
Goodness, there can be so many reasons, can't there? And I think about the reasons why I sometimes find Christmas overwhelming myself, and I think we all do at times, but especially with the autistic students that I'm familiar with, there's a whole host of reasons. Mainly what comes up a lot is social reasons. So having visitors calling at the house unannounced and unexpected, having to sit in a room with a lot more people than you're used to, extra family members calling round, and this need to make small talk, which a lot of my students find difficult because that's not logical to them, and they don't see the point in that. They want to just get to the heart of the matter and talk about the stuff that really matters to them. So as well as all the social expectations around that, There's also a lot of sensory changes that happen around Christmas time. So our houses are a lot more cluttered with decorations, and we may have lights flashing and sounds going on. But the emotion can lead to sensory overload as well. The excitement of, running down the stairs in the morning to open an advent calendar, or looking forward to those presents that you're going to get. And then there's the changes as well that come with Christmas, not just changes to routines, but everything's different. The house looks different. Christmas Day is different. You may eat at a different time. And we've talked an awful lot about this in the course, haven't we, Lynn? And we've tried to think of everything that might overwhelm somebody at Christmas time, and then how to deal with those things. So it can be something like, I did a section on meal times and talked about how, even the fact that you self-serve at Christmas rather than just putting a plate of food out, and you change how the table looks, you may change where you sit. Those things can really throw somebody and make them feel unsettled. And then I did a section on presents as well, talking about that. And a lot of my students absolutely love getting presents, but what they don't love is opening them in front of people, because it feels like 1,000 eyes are burning into them. And then they also want to thank people, but don't quite know what to say or how to deal with that. So there are just a multitude of reasons, and I probably could go on, but I'll hand over to Lynn in case there's anything extra to add.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because lots of autistic children and people like Christmas. And, there's lots of other aspects about it as well. If they go to church, there's all sorts of changes, but also quite nice, calm things as well, music. They quite often enjoy a lot of aspects of them. And I think it's all about like anticipation. I speak about, anticipation is an unpredictable thing. And some of our children don't really gauge the timing between now and Christmas, because it seems like everybody's talking about it all the time, and they're saying things like, are you ready for Christmas? Well, what on earth does that mean? So even if they really like Christmas, the anxiety is there because of all this unpredictableness and the timing and the anticipation. So what we do, that's where we encourage, using those visual timetables, or getting a calendar and using a color coding system. We've given some examples on the course that you can download. Just make things more predictable. Think about what works and what doesn't, and do it your way. Don't be worried about what this thing that's only been invented by advertisers, by the way, perfect Christmas. There is no such thing. It's an invention. Even Father Christmas in a red suit is an invention from Coca-Cola. Sorry to burst your bubble on that.
Yeah.
They're commercial inventions. So do what is right for your child. If they're scared of Father Christmas, tell them this. One of the things I did with my own children who were quite scared of Father Christmas, and we did the story of St. Nicholas, where it all came from. And it kind of made more sense to them then. So it is that they're different because they've all got different needs. They've all got different experiences of Christmas, and also different sense of anticipation, which is, again, how they can cope with that. And as Kate said, if you're already excited, things feel more anyway, don't they? So we are looking forward to a bit of calmness within our bubbles over Christmas, I think.
Lots of us find it overwhelming, don't we? And it's obviously, it's so much harder potentially. So it's important that we do whatever we can to make it, so we're understanding and we're doing whatever we can to make things easier. Yeah. Just a note there that I've just put up, which is that we've mentioned the Autism and Christmas course a few times. Folks, it's available for free at Studio TV. There is a members version. And we'll mention the Getting It Right membership a little bit later on as well, where there's a ton of stuff on there. But the free course, if that's of interest to you, on Autism and Christmas, is available at Studio TV. We have had a couple of questions come in, so let's just have a little look. Magda is saying, sorry Kate, you're disappearing halfway there for a moment. That's better. How do you support autistic students who are really struggling at school with changes, as so many teachers are isolating and the routine and familiar adults at school are not the same? That's a brilliant question, isn't it? Lynn, I'm going to come to you on that one.
Yeah, well, again, I'm sure Kate will say the same. This is what we are dealing with right now, isn't it? And it's been a really hard term. Probably this is a bigger issue than Christmas, really. So changes and unfamiliar people can cause a lot of anxiety. So again, it's using the same theme as trying to make things as familiar as possible, and writing down or using pictures to show the child who is in charge, who's the teacher today, what the schedule is for the day. So there's some familiarity to work through, making sure that you do reduce demands, but you also give them enough to be getting through the day, but there are sensory breaks. So it's trying to keep things as familiar as possible. If you've got a supply teacher in, then making sure there's a one-page profile available for that teacher about the child, so they know what the key things are to help them. And if it's a TA, that's somebody that they really, are reliant on, and there isn't enough staff, well, the child's needs have to be at the centre of how the person in charge of the class is planning that day. Otherwise, you're going to get a very distressed child. It is tricky, especially when there's not enough staff. And I've been working through schools with this at the moment. And our main advice is do what you can. So, think about the core needs of the child and enable them to feel safe and calm as much as possible, give them as much predictability as possible. And then the learning will happen if those things are met first. Really. I don't know if Kate's got anything to add to that.
Hot chocolate and loads of biscuits have been one of our strategies. So yeah, we've got copious supplies for students that need to come out of class for one reason or another. But I think to add to what Lynn said as well, adding choice really supports people as much as possible, because if you're really stressed out and you're really anxious and really worried, and you feel that you've got to walk into that classroom door and go into that lesson with that teacher who you've never seen in your life, that feels like a huge amount of pressure. But just putting a little bit of choice in there, can you go into this lesson, or do you want to come to the base or a learning support room, and do you want to study there instead? Giving those alternative options. So in the school, there's a particular school I'm in 3 days a week. So that's an absolute joy, because we can really make some big changes. So we've got computers set up in hubs around school where TAs are based. And if a student's struggling in a lesson, they can come out then to the base and do their learning there. Some of the staff who are off are not actually unwell. They just need to isolate. So they're delivering live lessons and online lessons. So we're allowing some of those students to access those lessons instead from a computer. And for supply teachers, I think they've got the hardest job in the world, especially in secondary schools. It's almost like the minute they say supply teacher, that's just the cue to go, whoa, let's go mad with this one. And of course, that causes so much more distress for our autistic pupils, because the classes are generally more manic and noisier when a supply teacher is in. So like Lynn said, yeah, just try and control as much as you can and make things as predictable as possible.
It's that flexibility, isn't it? Just be creative work with what the child can do. And then you will get, a child who can keep going, really.
Awesome. Thank you. Jill on YouTube has asked, what can you do when your child sees visuals, timetables and calendars and countdowns as huge demands? Lynn, I'm going to come to you with that one.
Yeah, this is hard, isn't it? Because if that happens to a child, it's trying to work out why they are feeling so anxious and give them something that will help that anxiety. So we won't make demands that they can't cope with. I think, choices are probably the way to go. So this is kind of dipping into perhaps some of the what we call pathological demand avoidance sort of strategies, offering choices, suggestions, doing something yourself, or and inviting them in rather than demanding. Anxiety isn't always PDA, but it can cause very similar reactions at times. And if you want to know more about PDA, and I know I keep, saying that we have recorded a course for Studio TV that if you want to know more detail. But I think what's really helpful to think is, okay, start from what the child can do. If it feels like everything is impossible for the moment, work with where you are and slowly introduce things that could be successful. It's really hard without knowing more details, obviously, but also make it fun and link it to their interests. If they're interested in something, use it and have a bit of fun and laughter and a bit of a joke as well at times. As has been said, use hot chocolate and chocolate biscuits. So just ease off the pressure. And you think, if you can do that for this next week and get through, and then make Christmas 2 weeks off as calm as possible, it's like recovery time. And I think we're all going to need that this term. Complete recovery time. It's been a hard term, masses and masses of unexpected anxiety and demands. So plan for rest. And if that means they don't do anything, it may be just what they need to recover from this term. And then start afresh with, new eyes in January, we hope.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Kate, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think there's anything to add to that, really. As Lynn said, it's about the choice, isn't it? And sometimes what we've done with timetables, so, it's hard without knowing the child, but some students will accept a timetable as long as they feel in control of that timetable. So what we've sometimes used, which has been effective, is kind of got all the tasks for the day there ready, but allowed the student to put them onto the timetable instead of us doing it. And they can pop them on and they can swap them around if they want to, and later on that day they might say, I don't want to do that there. It's like, well, okay, you have a little switch around, and that just makes them feel that it's their timetable and they're more in control of it.
Cool, brilliant. Let me just share, folks, because we've chatted a little bit before we move on to some more questions. We've chatted a little bit about the courses and that kind of stuff, so I'm just going to make it so that you can, I'll just show you that really quickly. I'm showing you now the Getting It Right membership page, which includes, let me whiz down here, we've talked about the PDA course, which you can see there bottom left, which is part of the membership you get. We've talked about the Autism Christmas as a free version of that course. There is also a members version which has got additional content in there, and then there is a load of other stuff that's available as part of those memberships. So there's tons of different courses. I know, Lynn, you're working on one at the minute which is around supporting girls with autism as well, aren't you? So there's a ton of stuff on there that is just super helpful. Just before I come off it, just let me very quickly show you. I'm going to whiz back to the front page. That's where you'll find the free autism course, if that's helpful, and then a whole of other bunch of stuff on there that you can find, right back to the one that was launched, if you remember this, gosh, was that March-ish? March, April time, when there's been,
beginning of May, I think.
Was it May? Goodness me. Yeah. This year's been so funny for time. Literally tens of thousands of people have done that one. It's been an incredible support for people, and that's obviously Lynn's course there. So have a look around at Studio TV, folks, because there is stuff that I know that you're going to find helpful on there. And again, a lot of it is still free. We're still committed to putting out as much stuff that doesn't cost anything as we can, but also going, look, actually there's some really, really good high quality resources for you if you want to go deeper as part of memberships and other bits and bobs as well on there. Let me throw another question, Kate. I'm going to come to you on this. I think actually this one popped up. This is on YouTube from Debbie. This one popped up in front of me when I think a couple of questions ago you were saying about, things happen. Some of the teachers they're off ill. They're not ill, they're at home, they're isolating, but they're not ill, and they're kind of zooming in or whatever they're doing to do lessons. Debbie's question popped up there, which is, what do you suggest for a child who's disengaged when kind of at the other end of it and having to listen to those lessons via Zoom? Have you any advice on that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, some of my students are really struggling with this. They're finding it the words are totally boring. Yeah, they're just finding it really hard to sit in front of a screen. And I think because they're just, all they've got is to stare at somebody's face. And for some of our autistic students, that's really, really difficult to look at a screen that is filled with somebody's face. Some of my students have actually turned the cameras off, and that's helped a little bit. So that's just a tiny little tip. And what we've been doing with some students who are disengaging and not doing any learning at home, they sometimes respond better to paper-based learning than Zoom sessions. So we can send learning packs home for them as well. And what happens with the learning pack is it's got all their lessons in for that day or that week, but then there comes the element of control and choice again. So they're not having to log onto the computer at 9 a.m. in the morning. You know, they might be doing that work at 9 o'clock at night, and that might work better for them. Some students are struggling because they're trying to follow the lesson, and if they're not understanding, they've got no support there because maybe parents are at work. And they're home alone. So some of our parents have been doing a lot of the learning at home with their child in the evening in a paired partnership, and that seems to be working quite well. Of course, it's a lot for parents then because they're obviously going out to work all day. It's managing expectations and how much you expect, isn't it, of somebody? I mean, I wouldn't expect a full day's work from a lot of our students, but if they can at least do something. And then I'd just bring in the whole thing of motivation again. You know, why am I doing this? What is the point of doing this, and what's in it for me? And if we can find any way to motivate them, whether it's, you know, 20 quid at the end of the week if you've participated in so many lessons, you know, it's whatever works for them and that they feel comfortable with.
Do you want to jump in on anything on that, Lynn?
Yeah, we've had some sort of success using project-based learning. So again, especially linked to a child's interest. So they're still doing some writing, some maths and so, or even a sort of life-based learning, you know, where they've got a project to think, well, like, how do I make a meal, for example? And, you know, actually planning that through the shopping and the money and all those things. So, you know, that works and has worked quite well at primary level. Secondary level more, because especially for students who might have GCSE work to do, it has been difficult, but then we've done that thing of, is it paper-based learning better? But sometimes we've had to have a one-to-one with a TA to go through the work online, separate from the class teaching. So it is being flexible enough to see the way the child can learn. But we've got to remember some of our children as well have real rigid thinking that school is school and home is home. You know, and it's been really, the lines have been crossed greatly this year, which might have helped some, but others find it difficult. So again, if a child won't work at home and their bubble is isolating, is there any way they can go into school? That's another option as well, you know, just that child because of their SEND needs, like they did during lockdown. So it's just, again, just trying to be flexible and see what works.
Cool. I'm going to flick on to some more of these Christmassy questions, if that's all right. So Zoe's asked what additional support might be needed in the run-up to and over Christmas. And as I don't know, but it'd be helpful to take a look at that for maybe just a few minutes from the point of view, from a school point of view, but also from when they actually get home, you know, when there's that couple of weeks or whatever they're at home, from that point of view as well. Lynn, can I come to you first on that?
I'll do school. Okay. I just know she's had some really good things in her being part of the course that was about home-based stuff. But yeah, in school, we've got a week left, and it's thinking about how can we make this a week run successfully and smoothly. And one of the things, like one of my school said, oh, we're getting reindeers in for the children to look at, which sounded really exciting. And then say, what are you doing with your autistic child? Well, we're just going to take them out and see what they think. But it's like, hold on, let's make sure we prepare our children for what's going to happen. That is so important. So, you know, look at some videos of reindeers and, you know, see what one is, describe what it is. Also, if something different's going to happen, they can get involved if you prepare them and let them know, but also tell them what's going to happen afterwards. That's really helpful. that something normal or something familiar is going to happen afterwards. And you know, one of my friend's daughters, she goes to a special school, but even over Christmas there, she ran into the hall one morning shouting, "I want my lessons back!" You know, because she was so overwhelmed. So yes, do your things that you're going to enjoy and plan. Prepare your autistic children well. Give them the choice. Once you've given them the information, what's going to happen. Do you want to join in or do you not? Things like if you're going to give gifts out or have a party, a bubble party, which some are doing, again, prepare them, but give them the option of time out. They don't have to do those things. And all things about gifts, Kate has said about, you know, they might not like the wrapping up gifts, so let them have it in a plastic cellophane or something so they know what's coming. There's loads of lovely tips. But we've got a week. So think about what's happening in your week, prepare your autistic children, and give them choices, and I'm sure, you know, they'll really, really appreciate that. Over to you, Kate.
Okay, so I'm doing home. So the biggest thing is just all this planning and preparation, isn't it? So, you know, the advent calendars are great because we've got a countdown ready set there for Christmas. But what the advent calendars don't do is tell us what's going on in that particular day. So you may find that there's an increased need, if you don't do already, to have a visual schedule in place for the day itself. And you may need more detail on that than you normally would, because things are very different to a usual family day. So the Christmas day itself, you know, planning that almost to precision, but allowing probably not putting times on and things like that, because everything fluctuates. So just a rough order of what's going to be going on could be really helpful. So having a daily schedule in place. Other things in the run up to Christmas, as I mentioned before, a lot of students struggle with visitors coming to the house, that the doorbell goes and they don't know who it is, and it's quite anxious for them. So that's just, you know, just say to relatives or friends, you know, if you're going to call, can you just text me when you're on your way? And I can just say to my child, oh, so-and-so is coming in 10 minutes or whatever. And you may find that because of all the additional changes, that your child needs a bit of extra downtime as well, and I would plan some extra downtime in and just leave them completely alone, because it's probably what they want and need. In some homes, we've put door signs on doors and declared it a Christmas free zone, and that particular room is not decorated at all, and it's just a really nice chill out space for somebody to go to if they need it. With regards to Christmas Day, we've talked before with students about planning the whole meal time, and I've mentioned a lot of tips in the course about that. But getting them involved is really crucial, I feel. You know, if you're going out to the shops to shop for what's going to be on Christmas dinner, you know, let them choose some things that they'd like to have as well. How do they want their table setting? You know, how do they want to choose a particular placemat or a nice funky Christmas plate, and just involving them as much as possible in the planning and prep. And for some of our older students, they actually love just being part of the whole Christmas cooking process, and they may want to help out in the kitchen and do some of the meals and do some of the dishes, you know, put them on the table, and then they may need to escape then and sit somewhere else to eat their meal. So there's lots and lots of things that you can do to prepare, and I would just say have a look at the course, because we have gone through so many different ways to prepare.
That's amazing. Thank you both. That's really cool on that. I'm just going to actually carry it. Let me just see what's going on here. So Emma's commented on Facebook that she did free courses we did over lockdown. They were so helpful. Thank you, Emma. That's amazing. They are still there. So if anybody would find any of that helpful, that's all at Studio TV. Let's see. Again, if anybody's there and still has a question that they want to ask, there's still a bit of time to put that in if you'd like to. I'm going to come, Kate, just kind of carrying on that thought a little bit that we were talking about. I guess maybe coming at it from a slightly different angle, but how can I help my son cope with the excitement? He's struggling to focus on anything, and he's wired all the time. This time of year can be really challenging and worrisome for our family. It's one of those that there's obviously a lot of stuff behind it, and it's quite hard for people potentially, isn't it, this time of year?
Yeah, and as I said before, you know, emotion is so strongly linked to sensory as well. And I would say what we need to do is almost, if a child's becoming that excited almost constantly, you know, they're moving into that over arousal state, aren't they? So we need to kind of reduce their arousal levels. So there's lots of things you can do from a sensory perspective to help with that. So movement, vestibular input will be really, really helpful. And there's actually a little bit in our brain called the reticular activating system, and it's almost like the gatekeeper of our sensory system. So slow linear rocking movement kind of activates that little part of our brain, and it can regulate our sensory system. So by slow linear movements, I mean rocking. So it's not side to side, it's back and forth. So it's eyes to toes, that kind of movement. So it could be on a gym ball, it could be in a rocking chair, something like that. Avoid anything spinning. Spinning is really arousing. So avoid any spinny activities or any spinny objects. I know at Christmas my son's got a handheld thing and it spins round and all these lights flash. That's very, very stimulating and will send somebody's arousal levels sky high. And then as well as the movement and the vestibular input, you could try some proprioception, which is the weight-based stuff and the deep pressure. So lots of physical activity that involves really working the muscles and the joints, anything to do with climbing. All of those kinds of exercises will tire the body out as well and help regulate that sensory arousal level. Touch, massage, anything squishy like that could be useful. And then you may want to introduce like a really calming routine of an evening and just keep the whole environment low in arousal. So that it might be that the Christmas tree lights have to go off. It might be that the TV needs to go off. Your evening routine might be more strict. So you may include, you know, a relaxing wash time, whether that's a bath or a shower, followed by a snack, maybe a little family activity, a story at bedtime, lights low, sound low, all those kinds of things.
Thanks, Kate. Lynn, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'm off to buy loads of those. But yeah, I think darkness is also can be really helpful. Very much, you know, all the things that Kate said, and just a little dark space to hide in sometimes, so like a little den. And you can buy like pop-up tents and things that might make. There's lots of nice sensory things that would make good Christmas presents as well. But wrapping and, you know, wrapping things around you and having a cuddle from a blanket rather than a person, because sometimes a person can be a bit more stimulating. But there's loads of ideas like that, and you say it's the proprioceptive system, it's that rocking and just anything that's kind of calming in that way. For some, it might be as well. I was thinking, well, my brains have gone. No, it's gone. Music. That's what I was thinking about. Certain types of music that can be quite calming as well. So it's just finding what's right for your child. But I really, really hope you manage to do that and get some sleep, because I know sleep is a huge area for autistic children and it can't be helped at this time of year either.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you both so much. A couple of other people have popped up and said, Jill said, thank you for the courses. Really grateful. Thank you so much, Jill. And Magda, who was watching on YouTube, who asked us that question before, very helpful. Lots of tips. Thank you so much. I think that's probably a good place for us to start to think about what we can do to wrap things up. Folks, let me just remind you that the Getting It Right membership is available at Studio TV, where there's a load of courses that are available. And the membership is £10 a month, so do take a look at that. There's loads of stuff on there, really good resources, lots of downloads, new courses every month, lots of CPD accredited stuff going on there as well. So do take a look at Studio TV if that's something that you think would be helpful. You can get that as an individual. If you're from a school, you can get whole school memberships as well, so you can get in touch to chat through any details on that, so that everybody in school can actually get access to stuff as well. I think it's so important that we approach all this stuff from a top to bottom point of view as well, isn't it? That it's not just, you know, with people within schools doing stuff in isolation. So that's a really important one. Do either of you have anything you want to say as we start to wrap up? Anything that you think maybe we've missed or is worth just mentioning? Lynn, do you want to say anything first?
Yeah, I think get rid of expectations. You know, I think there's a big pressure on us all, isn't there, to have a certain kind of Christmas and do certain things. It doesn't matter whether you have curry, you know, plain pasta or a full Christmas dinner on Christmas Day, really, you know, and it's all that sort of expectations. I've been watching adverts at the moment and they're still talking about the perfect Christmas. You know, we want a peaceful Christmas. We want something that's accessible to the whole family. We haven't mentioned siblings and, you know, their needs as well, and that can be difficult within a family when you've got one child who perhaps needs really calm, but the others can get involved in things. I think this year some of that has been taken away because we can't go out to pantomimes and parties and all those kind of things. But, you know, we'll do what's right for your family. Do what's right for your class if you're a teacher, and get rid of false expectations. That you don't need that pressure. Do it your way. And somebody on Twitter yesterday said about the course that they really found, so I'd done 10 reasons why people find it difficult on the course, and they said it's really helped them find the words to tell their family why they find things difficult, and they're doing it their way this year. And that was really wonderful to do that. And those 10 things came out of my research, talking to autistic children, autistic people who are adults and their families, and saying, why is it difficult and what can we do to help? So yeah, let's not live up to other people's false expectations.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Kate, how about you? Anything to add as we wrap up?
Yeah, I was going to say the same as Lynn, really, because it's what's right for you and what's right for your family. And like Lynn said, you know, you feel under so much pressure to kind of, you know, make it how you think it should be, and it is what's right for you. You know, I've worked with families who said to me, do you know what, we just don't even treat it like Christmas. It's a day like any other, and that's what works for us. And you know, that's okay. And I think it's really important as well to share our own experiences, because often when I'm talking to my students about the things that they may find difficult, I think it's really important for them to understand that we all find these things difficult. It's just a lot more difficult for them. I say, you know, sometimes autism, you know, we all experience these things, but for you it's just a bit harder, and it's more exaggerated for you, and it's difficult. And I remember talking to a student, you know, and saying, oh gosh, you know, I did Boxing Day and they were asking me about Christmas, and I said, oh, my family went home, and I just thought, oh, thank God for that. And the students said to me, really, miss, really? Why did you think that about your family? And I talked about the whole day and how I'd been running around all day, and I felt like I'd never spoken to anyone, never got a chance to sit down properly. And it was just such a relief when it was all over. And he really appreciated me saying that, because a lot of our students often think that they're the only ones. So I think it's really important for us to share our own feelings and our own experiences as well.
That's amazing. We'll be doing that. Definitely we'll be doing that. You know, it all resonates so much, doesn't it? Everybody kind of feels the same about Christmas, I guess. Most of us feel the same about Christmas, and it's the pressure. Wow, it's full on. I just thank you so much, Kate, Lynn, for joining me today and just having this conversation about stuff. Lynn, it's always a pleasure. Kate, it's wonderful to have you with us. I'm sure we'll do it again at some point maybe next year. Let me just mention that the next live stream will be tomorrow with a chap called Richard, who, lovely guy, worked with lots of young people to help them with SEND, with varying disabilities, special educational needs, who have he's got them helped get them into paid employment. So we're going to be talking about that, and there is a new free course available at Studio TV, that is Richard's course that we'll be launching tomorrow about that as well. So do join us for that. And then we're also launching another course tomorrow, which is around curriculum and assessment for children and people with SEND in school, which is a really innovative, holistic approach to that. And we'll be doing some live stream conversations about that in the new year, because I'm pretty sure you're going to be sick of us soon. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. Lots of we're still trying to carry on that that idea of we just want to support you with as much free content as we can, but there is some really good high value, like Lynn's membership, the Getting It Right membership, that is very affordable, but really if you want to go deeper and you want more and more knowledge kind of coming your way. So hopefully we're striking that balance reasonably well for you. Please do get in touch. Jump in, Lynn.
Yeah, just say that what we've tried to do is make our courses really accessible, haven't we? And they're all in little bite-sized chunks, and many of them are also CPD accredited as well.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can, for those of you who work in school, that is a really big plus, that you can put that towards your portfolios and things like that as well. So we're trying to do that as much as we can for you. So do get in touch if you've got any questions about that, about any of those, and we will, if things that pop up on comments, we'll obviously keep an eye on comments as we usually do, and if we'll try and answer anything that there's anybody wants to carry on the discussion afterwards or watches this afterwards, we always try and keep an eye on that and chip in with stuff. So again, Kate, anything to say before we go?
I'd just like to wish everybody a really happy, peaceful and quiet Christmas.
Hooray, well done. So Emma's done the same thing there. So that's awesome. And Richard, who we're chatting with tomorrow, has popped up as well. So yeah, Kate, thank you so much. Happy Christmas to you. Have a wonderful one. Quiet Christmas sounds heavenly, doesn't it? Lynn, thank you so much, as always. Folks, thank you for joining us. It's been really lovely to spend the time, and we will definitely see you again soon. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're on YouTube before you go. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.